Good evening, everyone. And one of these days, I will remember to, finally finish making my tweaks to that intro. At some point in my life, it will happen. But I can neither guarantee that day will be tomorrow nor soon. So, tonight on the Crimson News Network, there may be a little bit of news coverage and stuff later in the evening, but there is one thing that I do kind of want to start bringing back to the channel a little bit, and I felt like the Crimson News Network segments that I do were a good chance to start talking a little bit more about some of like the indie comics and stuff that are out there, because there are plenty of people who do manga slash anime kind of stuff that produce good work. And as it happened, um, someone who's been on the channel reached out to me saying that he had a campaign, asking if there was a show that he could showcase his latest campaign on. And he's been on twice. Hero DarkyDark, how are you doing?
Yo, what's up? Hero Doctor Kill. The hero you don't need but deserve. And yeah, I'm doing pretty good myself.
So, yeah, I decided that we were going to, pick up one of the segments that I had long since, stopped kind of covering, because there weren't a whole lot of I don't know, it was kind of hard to fit it in with the main theme of the channel where I cover a lot of anime and manga and stuff. And I feel like if there's a good indie campaign, there are a couple of other people that I do feel like I kind of want to reach out to and see if they're interested in coming on here to talk about their projects, because they have done similar things in making their own manga. So that said, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and talk a little bit about what it is that you have created here? And I can bring that up here with the actual campaign for Relentlessly Bullied Hero.
Yeah. So I'm Hero DarkyDark, indie manga creator. There you go. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Hero DarkyDark, indie manga creator, and I get to call my flagship title is Relentlessly Bullied Hero. It's about a young hero who's trapped in a bonding deal with a villain. Her name's Gamora, and basically because he saved his life, he is forever basically forced to entertain her. So as he's dealing with all this stuff, from villain attacks to conspiracies and such, he has this goth villain who just constantly bonding him, making his life a little bit harder. So it's a fun action shonen with those bits of, I guess you can call it, romantic comedy in it. It's a fun time. And so far, we're on our third chapter.
That's quite the question there to start out with. And I think I understand where he's coming from, given what the image here opening up the campaign is.
Hey,
I have accidentally
do in the privacy of their own room is their own business.
I don't want to know the answer to that question. I don't think I really want to know the answer to that question, but I do understand it. And I have, this is my fault. I've cultivated an audience full of gooners now. Great. Anyway, so yeah, it's very much a show. It's still coughing like a freaking. Oh, okay. Get it under control. You got here. So it is very, very shonen. And I actually just did a little bit of a reread here today before coming in here, just so I was up, just so it was all, fresh on the top of my mind here, and I wasn't forgetting anything. But to give a little bit of a talk about the series from, I guess, I'm still coughing. From, I guess, the reader perspective, effectively it is. I've likened it to My Hero Academia quite a bit, because it does have some very similar themes. To where you have, how Deku is replacing All Might in My Hero Academia. There's sort of a similar thing going on here, although not quite. There are some likenesses, but I do think it is more dissimilar than similar. And in this case, you have Zeal has basically made a deal with the devil, whose name happens to be Grimoira, who, like you said, spends most of her time sitting there teasing the guy and making him entertain her, because that was the deal that he struck with this woman. And I mean, some people would be into that. I don't think I would be into handing over my heart to someone like her, but some people would. I mean, there's a reason Makima ended up being so popular with the Chainsaw Man community.
Yeah, some people are just into that stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know that, but apparently there's a audience for it.
I mean, you've definitely like tapped into that audience with some of this artwork, man. And I mean, getting into the campaign. So now that you're getting like to 3 books into this, like 180 pages. Have you like? Is there anything that you um look back on in the first 2 volumes that you're like, I wish like something that like you look back on and just like because this is the creator mindset, at least as far as I've known it for as long as I've written like creative fiction in like college and stuff. I always look back on things that I worked on or even like videos for me and been like, you know, I probably could have done this a little bit better here, or I probably could have done something like um a little bit funnier here or work that out a little better. Um is there anything like that that now that you're getting this far into it that you look back on and been like had that like thought of like maybe there's something maybe I could have, portrayed this just a little bit better and it would have come across clearer or something like that.
I mean, yeah, of course, as you mentioned, with every piece of work you do, there's always gonna be that human part of you that makes you go, maybe I could improve on this or so done that. But yeah, as a creative, I kind of go with the ruling of, well, I mean, at a certain point, once you made the decision, you made a decision, and you gotta live with it. And I feel like that's probably for the best because if you keep on, changing tune and doing stuff too often, it can make the story feel a little bit too, I guess you could say, disjointed as you keep on chasing different parts. And, if you put like 10 different PC parts into one, you're not set up all of them will sync together with each other. So I like to kind of keep a mindset of, yeah, think about what you can do better, but hey, make sure that it's still aligned with your decisions only like a few times so you actually do a full heel turn. But I guess in my work, it's always like I felt like could have added more to this. Because, as an indie person, I gotta be very pragmatic about how I produce the books. Like I can't, but especially since I don't have the audience to make it work. But yeah, I can't as often just make like 200, 300 plus books, off rip. Since, especially with my model, I'm gonna have to, finance it, be the one paying for it, go through it, all that stuff. And it becomes an issue since this is my first, I don't have an audience for it. So I'm like, okay, so on top of the fact that I'm gonna need to finance like a 300-page book, since I don't do the art, I'm the writer for it. I was like, okay, that's like 200, 300 worth of pages I gotta pay for, which can easily rack up to the like 5 figures and such that I'll have to do. And if I try to do a Kickstarter first, well, one, it's one of those things where I gotta convince people that I'm actually gonna do 200 pages straight. I'm not just gonna say I'm gonna do 200 pages, but then 5 to 6 whatever years later, I still don't have something because it's like, oh, I'm still working on it and such. So I gotta be pragmatic. So there's a limiting amount of stuff where I was like, okay, I should probably only do this amount of pages because I can, front them in myself and have it be done in a reasonable amount of time so that I can put it out there, slowly get an audience so that maybe a little bit later while I want to do something a little bit more ballsy, at least then I have more of an audience that can make it work. But let's be honest, if any of us saw a campaign that says, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a 200 plus manga book, I don't have any pages yet, maybe like 5, but trust me, bro, and the guy has like no record, no history of anything, I don't think a lot of people are gonna trust with that money. So of course I had to be pragmatic and kind of limit myself, and that comes with the con of there's some things. Well, it can be both a con and a pro, but con is that there's something that I'm gonna have to take out or not have as expensive as I want. Like certain cuts, not cuts, certain fight scenes, with anime and fights and manga pages. Like an average manga fight, at least one that's, I say decently approaching can easily be like 20, 40, debatably 60 pages, depending on what kind of fight it is. And it'll just be the fight itself. But in indie, I don't have as much luxury as that. As my book are usually 60 pages. So if I make 30 pages, the fight scene, which will still be a good amount, that's only gonna leave me 30 pages to introduce characters, self conflict, and that kind of such. So it can make things a little bit harder to decide, okay, what size setup versus what needs to fight, and how long can I expand on both of them. As if I was doing it with a publisher, if I was doing weekly shonen, it'll make things a little bit easier, since it's like, okay, well, regardless of what I do, there's, relatively speaking, always gonna be a next week where I can make a extra edition. But he was like, okay, it's gonna take me a couple of months to actually do this thing. I can't just have the first issue stop mid the first fight. That'll probably piss a lot of people off, because it's kind of just like, okay, we didn't really get a full story, if you get what I mean. So that's most of that. Even like in the second book, when they went to that ball stuff, I kind of wanted to have like a couple of extra scenes of just Gamora and Zero kind of get into shenanigans, and Zero just continuing to fail to talk with people. But in the name of the story and the plot and the overall message, I'm like, okay, I can only just add in like a little bit of the bicker at the beginning, and then get the world building stuff in, and then kind of like gotta start putting the conflict and getting into Zeo's grudge against the PYH and such. We only like a little bit of time to like set up future kills and such. So that's what I'll say is why I had to sacrifice.
That's one of the things that I do appreciate about these books is both of them stand pretty like relatively well on their own. There is some like story connects to it, like they do follow 1 to 2 to 3 and all that, but you can pretty much sort of like, as far as the first two goes, you can pick one up, whether it's 1 or 2, and you can read it and enjoy a story of it, because as far as I've seen, it's been a complete story in each volume. And enjoy it and put it down. You don't have to worry about when the next one might end up coming around. But you've been fairly consistent at getting these out, especially like after like the campaign is done. You're usually pretty timely with with your turnaround, and I do appreciate that. And from your answer to this latest question, it does seem like you do have that partly in mind in how you size and write these books, because it seems like it's all sort of engineered around that same concept of getting something out that people are going to be able to enjoy, while also not wasting too much of their time. Because like Biggles here said, I signed up for a book and 5 years later it still isn't out. I've had a couple of those back when Iron Age, like the whole Iron Age movement first popped off. I signed up for a couple of books that looked promising, but I think some of them might have overcommitted to what they were doing, and it's taken them forever, and the books still haven't come around. Unfortunate, yeah, but I guess that's just the nature of that's one of the like downsides, I guess, of like having to crowdfund these things, is you get people who do stuff like that who don't deliver, that kind of ruin some people's perception of it. But in this case, one of the reasons I've had you on consistently is because I've enjoyed the books you've made. I've always gotten the books that I've paid for, and you're a pretty easy person to work with. So it all works out,
I mean, I think what I'm doing is something that a lot of, I guess you could say, people who were once crowdfunding backers turned creators all start doing. Well, we get the struggle of, backing something, but then having to wait years to maybe not even get something, or even when you do get it, it may not be exactly as you expected. And then it's kind of like, oh, wow, it's like paid money to, I don't want to say waste, but basically wait a long time just for this. Like wow. So I think like a lot of newer creators are trying to do to where they're trying to like at least have, if not all the book done, most of the book done. So when they do the Kickstarter and it ends, it's a lot more of a clear process of okay, thing ends, wrap this up. This is how we send it to heal. This is what we need to do. And it kind of makes it easier as I watched some other people videos on how they indie fund, and one person mentioned that for like your first book, you probably should have it like completely done before you crowdfund, just so that you have the personal responsibility of knowing, okay, what's my limit? How long does it take to do this? How much does it cost? Before we go in, so you have a little bit extra skin in the game. Because I can see a lot of people, well, yeah, as you mentioned, they might overpromise and such, but then they'll only get something like, I don't know, like 30K. And theoretically, it should be enough to get it done, but maybe because they didn't really do the research they needed, or they're overconfident, or they way overshot with how they thought they would be able to do it. Like I think there was one case where someone thought, "Oh yeah, years all I need to do the book," but then it ended up taking more. And by the time it even got one time, by the time they were getting closer to get the book done, the money from the campaign was already gone because he thought that the campaign was covered a little bit expensive when it's like, no, that's not how you do it. So I think a lot of new creators are kind of taking that. Let me first take the personal responsibility of making sure that the base cost is on me, and then I'll clap on and then go from there. And so far, I don't mind it, as usually these campaigns. I don't just do Kickstarters. I sell at conventions. I'm getting an online store set up and such. So yeah, the Kickstarter for me, it's usually great as well. One, it helps me find new people follow me, it helps me get more connected and such. But also the money from the Kickstarter, after I send it out and stuff, it's basically a easy revenue. Well, I don't want to say easy, but basically a good revenue to, have some extra money to buy, what's the one I'm looking for? Basically buy backstock so I can sell at conventions, or even help what's the word, mitigate the cost of even commissioning the manga in the first place. In some cases, even more. So it's like, yeah, that's how a lot of people are starting to do what I've been seeing lately, and I kind of agree with it because uh, every time a Kickstarter kind of blows up in a bad way, yeah, it kind of affects your perception of it because they're gonna start thinking, okay, why am I gonna back it if there's a good chance this thing won't even come back to me, or it'll take so long, I will have lost interest in it. So that's why I've mentioned try to keep to a formal towards like, okay, I'm gonna do these small pages because I think that's good enough for me to get a decent story through, and then but it can also be done within a reasonable amount of time, so that even if something happens, like I get sick, I'm an artist, something happens to them, it won't take that long because like okay, once it's better, give it maybe like a month or two or something, back on track, and at worst, even in a month or two, should be good and way to set off.
All right. Yeah. Let's shift gears here a little bit, and I have a question for you. What has been your favorite part of this to work on so far? Like a specific scene or concept in here, or like what is the part of it that you have enjoyed? What is the part of like creating this that you have enjoyed the most?
I say the best part is the actual construction of the manga. Because, like a lot of kids probably thought of their own superhero story. Well, they thought, oh, yeah, well, blah, 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 this happened and such. But, as kids, it's not like we truly understood the concept of storytelling and such. So most of the time, we probably just thought of the fight and then probably finish the move, and then that's about it. But yeah, as a more professional creator, can't just be that. There has to be something towards it. So, of course, it's fun, getting together the character concepts, the motivation, actually structuring out each part of the fight, making I get to say, thematic theme go through the issue. And then the only thing that can even match that is just customer reception. So when people finally get their book and start talking about it, it's very, very rewarding when you hear them talk about it. Even if it's not, if they have criticism on it, it's still happy to hear them say it because it meant that they actually read it. So it means what you said in some way had an effect on them. And of course, the good ones always are a little bit better. But hey, just people reading it is makes me happy. As
It's always nice to have people enjoy something you created as much as you enjoyed it. I do
oh
know a
yeah,
bit of that satisfaction because I mean I work on people's homes for a living, so I kind of understand the feeling there of like you do a lot of work to make something look nice or work well, and when people like it, it's rewarding because it makes all your work worth it. So I get
yeah.
it.
Oh, especially when they catch on to what you're going for, even if you didn't directly say it, you're just like, yes, exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. So if I'm interpreting your answer here a little bit, if I to like go into the next question here. So this whole, I'm guessing this whole thing started as like you wanted to write your own superhero story, and then the whole dynamic of like Zeal and Grimoire formed around that, or was it more so the other way around? You started with I'm going to have my hero get bullied by a hot villainess.
I guess you can say it's one of those things where it's kind of like a mix of both because I've been a anime and manga fan for like a long time, so yeah, it wasn't just superhero media that I was imagining and such. It's also just your basic anime stuff. So by the time I got onto Hero, it was around like I guess you can say the peak nihilism in superhero where, every superhero has to be a dark, edgy parody. The boys were at the
So, like
height.
the late 2010s on, or like the I don't know, mid 2010s on into like the 2020s, pretty much that era.
Yeah, basically. And so, I kind of didn't like that 'cause I felt like, okay, a lot of it is just, just nihilism. And not even, I'll be honest, a lot of them wasn't even like good nihilism. It was just pessimistic that people just praised because, oh, it's different. And then, of course, in comics, a lot of things wasn't really exactly the most heroes being the most heroic. So I was just like, man, I don't like this. I wanna see heroes that at least have a bit more of a heroic spirit to them, even if it's not directly just the plain heroic spirit. Like yeah, still not everyone needs to be freaking Superman, but even then, still, they don't need to be Superman, but they can still be heroic, like truly
Mhm.
heroic. So that kind of where this came in. But of course, I watch anime, so a lot of the anime fun stuff came to it. And then Gamora came into the picture and all this fun dynamic. Which,
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, Gamora kind of works to help balance out Zill's personality so that, as I mentioned, you don't need someone to be Superman to be heroic, but the morals help so he shows more personality to him.
Yeah, as far as their dynamic goes, I think it's good because it's complementary in the sense that Zeal is very like serious about everything he does. And this whole thing works because it's a little bit more of that like shonen silliness in nature, especially with in the beginning of the second book is a little bit of spoilers for anyone. It talks about a villain who went on a rampage because the ice cream machine at the local McDonald's was broken for 4 weeks in a row. So there's silly stuff like that, but Zeal is also like a good person, and this is one of the things that I do appreciate about the book. And I think I've said this to you before, but the fact that Zeal is regularly going out of his way to do like small things for people, um, it helps build his character to me because there aren't a lot of this. They don't do a whole lot of like the everyday hero kind of stuff anymore because, like you said, they have focused quite a bit on like the edgy nihilistic interpretations of superhero tropes and stuff like that. There are some who still do good things, but like some of the best superheroing stuff I have seen was like Spider-Man or like Batman doing like random stuff for people. Like there was this comic a while back of basically like Batman stopping this robber like twice, and the guy decides I'm going to turn myself around, turn my life around, and like do something better than just trying to steal. And when he gets out of prison, he has another encounter with Batman, and Batman gives him like a suit and tie. And
Oh yeah,
that was
I
like the
see.
most Batman thing that I think I had ever seen, and it really reminded me of the DC animated series. Batman the animated series. He did stuff like that all the time for like Harley Quinn, for Scarface. Like I think that part of like being the hero there, or that part of being the hero is kind of lost nowadays because people seem to overlook just doing the random good thing now, and it's more so focused on like save the day, or defeat the demon lord, save the day, stop the world from ending kind of stuff. A street level heroism is a really good way to show like a person's quality, a person's quality of character, because well, there are a lot of random things that most people would find tedious, but people who are helped in those situations would appreciate it. So seeing Zeal get himself into trouble with Grimoira in this latest one because he gets tied up twice in chasing down another villain and then helping an old lady take her groceries home. That was a nice little thing. It also added a little bit of comedy because there was that element of Zeal's doing all this good stuff, and meanwhile Grimoira is just pissed off that he's potentially stood her up.
Yeah, and plus it feels like, especially when it's that small, and it's not about being preachy, but like just generally doing good stuff. It helps make them feel a little bit more human, as if okay, they're not just being a hero because they got power, so now they can push their weight around. But no, they're heroes because they actually want to do good in the world, even if it's something that won't get noticed and such. Stuff like that is why I put it in. But to mention something you put in earlier about that villain who won on a won on a Amanda streak, stuff like that, little stuff like that is always like a favorite thing of mine to put in, and it kind of does connect with the whole thing Zeal's dealing with. To as you mentioned, he's very serious, but it seemed like outside of him, everything else in the world is a little bit crazy. That even the villain of the first book kind of just pointed out, is going like, yeah, no, this world is maddening. So I'm not sure what you're on about, but hey, I want to see what you're on because the fact that tiny stuff like that happened, and from what we've seen, it's not even like it's that big of a deal. You're just like, oh yeah, that one villain, killed people, a bunch of people. Not his first time over ice cream. It's like, wow, so there is a lot of strange stuff that happened in this world. But
I mean,
kind of tapped too on
I
me
don't even
about like
think it's really that
nihilism.
unrealistic to have someone do something like that, because you find those kinds of crazy stories in the normal world too. So I read that, I was just like, that's an interesting little detail to slip in there. It seems comedic, but at the same time, it's kind of dark, and I don't know how to feel about people being killed, but it's kind of a funny reason to go on a full on murder spree.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a dark humor sometimes. And honestly, it's sometimes a little bit difficult keeping some of that dark humor out of the series, either because I feel like it'll be a little bit too uncharacteristic to just have you experience it, or other stuff. But every once in a while, I can just slip in that. Oh my goodness, that happened stuff into it. Especially with Gamora, the amount of dark humor jokes I want to make with Gamora, but I had to, as a writer, I had to hold myself back a bit. Kind of like, okay, I don't want to overdo it. Kind of might mess with characterization and such. That okay, yeah, no, Gamora's doing all this bad stuff like right next to Zero, and Zero doesn't say anything as a hero. Kind of will mess with the dynamic a bit too much if Zero was just out there doing Red Skull stuff. Like there was a joke I want to make once that I held back on. I might use it later, but I held back on that. It was like Gamora wanted to get Zero's attention, but she couldn't find him. So she sets a building on fire. to get his attention. Half the time I want to put it in, but other half the time I'm like, ooh, that might be pushing it. Especially since in the first book I did mention or put in a detail that Gamora doesn't like to use bombs because it's harder for her to control what she actually does with it. So it's one of those things where I was like, ooh, I really want to put that joke in, but no, it might just ruin the characterization. And then that will affect Zero by proxy since he's literally next to her a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it because you still want Grimoire to be a villain and everything. You don't want her to seem too soft. But at the same time, making her too much of a villain would really ruin Zeal as a character because I mean you would effectively have to make him complicit in everything that she did. So kind of going with this route where she's just sort of like not really like up to any like at like major villainy kind of stuff. Um, but at the same time, she still acts kind of like a villain in the way she messes with Zeal and all the stuff that like all the other stuff that she does. It's a good balance for the character for both characters and for that whole dynamic, and that is, I think, what makes this project as entertaining as it is. I don't know why it is giving me this notification. If someone has my data now, fucking whatever, okay?
But yeah, as you're mentioning, yeah, it's a balance. Yeah, just like, but they got mad to get across that. Yeah, she's a villain, especially from her mindset to her sense of responsibility. Because even in the first book, we can see that now she's not a hero. She's kind of whole by being a hero, so it can easily get across that she's a villain, but she's not Omega. It's not like she's running around being a Red Skull to where you have to start questioning, okay, dude, are you just okay with this? So it kind of get across that, okay, no, she is a villain, but she's relatively tame, so that you don't think Zio's a complete hypocrite with how heroic he is if he just let that pass, without any major thing. Because with how Zio acts, you'll think that if it was that bad, he'll probably just would rather die than let it carry on.
Yeah, that would make sense. Um, so going forward, we get some preview. You have some previews in here. Of course, there are some good cover arts, and I'm very concerned for Zeal here because this chick looks like she's flying while drunk. And that can't possibly be a good combination. I would say it would make his heart stop, but he currently doesn't have one. So,
Yeah,
um,
fortunately, FYU, flying under the influence is it's one of the major. I don't want to say major, but it's an issue in the world. Well, every year, at least 5 people die from flying under the influence.
just like random commercials is like like make sure not to fly drunk. Every year, 5 people die while flying under the influence. Maybe a
Yeah,
little too
that.
dark of a joke, but
I mean, ironically that would fit in this world from the hidden dark humor in it, and plus like I said, why I didn't like a lot of the nihilistic quote unquote realistic superhero media. Some of it is pretty funny. Like, yeah, in a world where people will have powers, especially flight, I would expect that at least, depending on how popular or common flying abilities of any kinds are, I can at least expect that, maybe like every once in a while, someone who can fly got drunk and then did some stupid stuff. And if not, people who can fly will probably have some kind of license or security to make sure they don't. Like at bars, everyone have ID, and if they have the this guy can fly ID, the bartender instantly rejects them. Don't serve them.
so with this upcoming volume 3, what do you look forward to, like, without obviously giving too many spoilers? um what do you think is you are like, I guess as vaguely as you possibly can. What are some of the things that you're looking forward to people encountering in this next volume here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned it well, yeah, I mentioned it a couple times, but this issue or chapter per se is looking to be my longest one yet. It's going, at least the main story itself is 69 pages. Depending on how some things go, I might end up adding like 2 or 3 more, but at the moment it's 69 pages. Nice. Anyways, but outside of that, what I look forward to is basically just people getting more engrossed into Zeal's character as we kind of get to that moment where I guess I can say we see some stuff in him that can make that will really get people going. Okay, what is he? Because that's kind of been like a somewhat constant theme among like especially in the first two, to where even though Zeal relatively seems like a straightforward person, there is still like a lot of mystery to him. It's like, yeah, we see his power work, but as Gamora did mention, he never explained exactly what it is or how it works. And then there's the events mentioned in the second book that even though we, technically speaking, haven't seen Zeal directly saw how he's involved, we can always tell from his reaction that he probably has some connection to it. And on top of all that, we haven't seen if Zeal even have a regular civilian life or where it comes from. He's kind of just been alive in the city doing stuff, but as far as everyone else is concerned, he's kind of just appeared one day. Of course, even with Gamora, we already know what led out to how Gamora found him because he didn't have an arm once he found him. It was giant gaping chest wound. So it's kind of just like, okay, dude, what happened to him? Around
He was temporarily a part of the Donut Club.
Yeah, exactly. So this will be fun, and it'll really start putting into question, okay, who is he? What's up with him? And plus, there's a little bit more lore. We get to see more. Well, we get to see a glimpse into that star hero that supposedly died at the beginning and that kind of stuff. So happy people just dive into the meat of things. What I look forward to, as I mentioned before, around the first chapter, it's the first chapter, so there's a lot of introductory stuff. You can't go too hard into the lore on concept because it's the first one. You gotta actually get people into things if you want to make a revelation seem important. And thankfully, with the second one, I got to put in more lore stuff, so everyone gets to know. Oh, okay, so this is what help set the world on the route it's on. And now with the third one, yeah, they have a little bit more stuff like that, but I can start putting in more that, oh, so what's this? Oh, so what's that? Oh, so this is what inside of him. Oh, so this is what means this person, and that kind of such. So that's what I kind of look forward to. As from what I've seen, people like the world building stuff for number 2. So I'm like, okay, let's see how people like number 3 then.
All right. See here. If chat themselves have any questions about it, they are welcome to ask. We'll bring those up, but for now, I will just continue. So you're having fun with making this, I'm assuming, because you're continuing to do it, yeah?
Oh yeah, no, of course.
And I mean, it's been a fun series to read. Like, to kind of loop back on some of the things we were talking about earlier, it does have a very shonen vibe to it, and that's why part of the reason why I generally liken it to something like My Hero Academia, because it has a very similar, like a kind of similar style of like the powers and stuff in here. They don't like all line up to be like exactly like one thing or another. It's kind of more I guess what I'm trying to say is the powers are kind of similar in a way to quirks, to where some of them are a little bit unusual. Some characters are just, they're just characters who have a certain gimmick. like our French hating fireworks spammer Berserker from the first volume.
You mean the
Others,
goat of the series?
yeah, others have like very clear uh origins for the powers. Like Grimoire clearly uses magic. There's it doesn't really beat around the bush on that one, but other people have more natural superpowers, so it does end up feeling like it has that My Hero Academia level of like a variety to the powers. But that's something that's almost been unique to a lot to just about every superhero um series, where like there's a birth a breadth of different powers that occupy the space. But at the same time, the writing is still like very shonen inspired, especially with the way it has its sense of humor and the storytelling to it. It's not something that I would say is like, I mean, I've had my criticisms of it. It's not something I would say is like um a masterpiece. Sorry. But it's a good one that I do still recommend regardless. It's one of those like 8.5 out of 10 kind of series where like, wow, I really enjoyed this. I liked reading this. I could go back and read it again and will probably continue buying copies of this because I enjoy it that much. Um
I mean, yeah, and when it comes to, like the My Academia stuff, it's like, yeah, it's obviously like, I don't even try to hide it. It's on my sleeves. How much the series inspired it, to me. But I'm kind of thankful that I kind of structured the series that as you mentioned, it's not like an alignment of it, but just that you can easily tell it was inspired by it. When I talk to people about it, I usually mention like, imagine right after, when All Might retired, except All Might didn't retire, he died. So it's kind of like the world, we start off in the state of the world of that Deku Vigilante arc, except All Might died. So it has that kind of rough, the world's not as good as it should be kind of feel to it. We just lost the top guy and such. So it's like, yeah, you can obviously tell inspirations, but thankfully the setting itself is its own thing to where you can read it as not just, oh, okay, just repeating the same arc. Just no, we can just see where it got a lot of ideas from. Even the power system, that's another thing I look forward to this issue is that I actually do go a little bit in depth of at least part way of how powers work as I don't kill. Technically speaking, part of the preview, no, part of the page that explains it is in the campaign. But basically, not campaign. Powers are divided among three groups, and it usually just depends on where the main source of their power come from. Use like for some, it's directly linked to their bodies. For others, it's a type of magic, and then for everyone else, it's the weapons or items they use and such. And of course, this one mostly introduces the concept. What I really look forward to in the fourth chapter is that we get a little bit more in detail about how all of them interact with each other and what's the mindset for them all. Because like a lot of power systems, it's not just, at least a good one, it's not just the power themselves, but what do the powers mean for the person in one way or another. So that's what I look forward to.
so here we have Marcel with a question. Important question. Does the hero get the girl? And that might be a little bit of a spoiler question, but it is an interesting one.
I mean, depends which girl, and if you mean the more, technically speaking, it's been established since chapter 1 that they live with each other. So in that
And
sense, yes.
to quote Zeal in number 2, what can I say? She has my heart in the palm of her hand.
Yeah, basically. There we go.
So it's more like the girl has the hero in this one. I have a question myself though. So was Grimoire based on your tastes, or is this just something that like you came up with off the top of your head? Like, hey, maybe people will like this.
I plead the Fifth Amendment.
So you're the Makima stan, huh? You're the one who's out there into those kinds of women, huh?
Hey, all I'm gonna say is that I don't just like chicken. I like a variety of food, and sometimes that may be some food that's not good for you.
Oh, well, I mean, anyone involved with this woman is in for a world of trouble. Um, just from everything that I've seen so far. But I think as far as Relentlessly Bullied Hero goes, I don't want to go too much into this. Because I would rather people, go experience it for themselves. And the campaign link is in uh the description of the video. You can go directly there. It's also posted earlier, and I should pin this so that people can see it. If you're interested in getting a copy for yourself, there are catch-up tiers in here that you can go check out, and there are some, posters of questionable taste and stuff if you're into that kind of thing. But I personally would say it's worth it's worth a chance. The only unfortunate thing about it is indie does tend to be a little bit more expensive than most things, just because it's the nature of indie. And yeah, here we have Gorilla Mar. I like the first two and was quick to back this one. Yes.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I wasn't quick because I was trying to sort out some finances, but I did happen to be number 50 today. So there's that.
Oh, hell
Um,
yeah.
Either way, I would recommend it if you enjoy Grimoire, or if you just enjoy a fun like superhero story in a like a shonen manga style. Those would basically be my 2 points on it. And I know there are a couple of other things that you have talked about on. I've seen you talk about on Twitter. If you wanted to get just quickly mention them here for like people to look out for, now would be the chance.
Oh yeah. So well, of course, with this campaign, we got some fun stuff. We got books, we got posters. Funny enough, I managed to find a place where I can get custom hoodies. So I actually found a way to get a design to get Zeal's hoodie. So if anyone wants that, it'll be available. And I guess the only other thing left is just another project I'm working on called Stormwheel Riders. If anyone played Jet Set Radio, it's basically a series inspired by that and stuff like Ailgale. It's a lot of those young, rebellious, high speed, high speed action and adventure kind of deal. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun that I'm looking forward to. As it was a project that I wanted to try to get out last year, but I had a problem with the original artist, and that was a whole thing. So thankfully, I found another guy who I was able to slot in. He kind of fit better off than I imagined. So I'm like, oh yeah, cool. So hopefully that'll be a fun series that people will like just as much as Relentlessly Bullied Hero, which will be starting right after that campaign for Relentlessly Bullied Hero ends. So look out for it. It's coming soon.
All right, and with that said, I'm going to bring this segment of the live stream to a close. And like I said, Hero DarkyDark, you're not obligated to stick around here. At this point, I'm going to move a little bit into covering some anime slash manga news and stuff. And it's kind of a smattering of a bunch of different topics. But you're not obligated to sit here and go over the news with me. If you've got other things you need to do, you can go ahead and drop out now and I'll continue on the show.
I'm free.
All right, he's gone. Okay, so we're gonna remove that now, and thank you to Hero DarkyDark for showing up and doing the interview and everything. Appreciate it. He's back. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll just mess with you.
It's fine. I don't mind it. It's just I'm going to be covering a couple of articles and talking about some of the stuff that's been going on here. Uh, where to start? I'll save trailers for next week because we've been going for a little while and just bring up a couple of the articles that I did think were going to be relevant. And one in particular is from Anime Corner. And it has to do with one of my favorite and very highly misinterpreted series, Freer Beyond Journey's End. So here we go. To
Oh,
those in
geez.
chat, we have some comments from the director. So Freer director voices concern over overseas anime fans' bias towards certain popular trends. So, following his confirmed participation in the Global Anime Challenge, a scheme to invest in and broaden anime creators' perspectives on a global scale, Fear and Beyond Journey's End anime director Keiichiro Saito shared his aims and how he wants to counter the pattern he sees on overseas anime fans' perceptions or preferences. I don't know how I screwed that word up 3 times in a row, but okay. Saito previously directed Bocchi the Rock and will return for the second season of Freerin in a support role for the new directorial team. He was interviewed alongside fellow Global Anime Challenge participant Takafumi Nakame, an animation producer and production assistant on Freerin Beyond Journey's End. He was also a production assistant on Witch Watch and Berserk the Golden Age arc. Both spoke about a sense of stagnation in the Japanese anime production environment, which prompted them to apply for the GAC. They aim to learn from foreign production sites and gain a new perspective. Nakame added that he wanted to do more than just make an anime, given the rare opportunity to create and sell IP. Saito says he's debating whether to create a widely accepted IP with an eye on the Academy Awards in the US or something deeper. This is what he said regarding what's important in promoting Japanese anime to the world. I've had the opportunity to attend overseas conventions and interact with overseas fans, and I have a vague feeling that the Japanese anime that overseas fans go crazy about may be a little biased. Popular things are, as to be expected, popular, but a large current wave forms. For those on the creative side, I think this is also a situation where a disconnect could be born. Because the current is so strong, if we focus too much on it, only that aspect becomes emphasized as anime's defining characteristic. Before it gets to that point, I feel it's important to share anime's diverse appeal to the world. I have a desire to create works that can draw the world's attention through a variety of approaches. And just to quickly comment on that part of this, effectively what he's saying is we shouldn't go balls to the wall on doing one thing over and over and over again because it will lose its appeal. And we should be focusing on actually making good series rather than just chasing trends. That's my interpretation of this. And I do respect that because there are like trends that I've talked about, especially with the tropes of stories like Scooped Up by an S-rank adventurer, where like you have the same story trope used over and over and over again. A lot of people have complained about like isekai being, very repetitive, even though it's a far more creative genre than people give it credit for. But I respect his take on this. I think it's a pretty healthy one. Some people interpreted this as like, oh, well, they need to stop doing action shonen stuff. And I'm sitting here like, I don't think that's quite exactly what he's trying to say. You were going to say something here, DarkyDark?
Oh yeah. No, I'm about to say, yeah, what he says makes sense. That you gotta like even the eating, you gotta have variety in there. You can't if you just eat one food all the time, eventually it's just gonna taste stale to you. So that's why you always gotta mix it up. Not only because it helps keep the palate clean, but you don't know what you may be missing if you only consume like one kind of content. It's why it's real that action shonen was the one people want to go after because like at most a season, there's only like what one or two actually running. Like, yeah, a lot of the action shonens are popular, but there's usually years in between seasons, and usually it's just one or two, maybe three that gets popular a year, which again is spread out throughout a year. So
Mhm.
that's not gonna be much of an issue.
And I mean, this season is a bit of an exception because we have 3 action shonens airing, and 2 of them I think are really good. I mean, there's Dan Dan and Gachi Akuto, which I've been a huge fan of, but there's also Togen Anki, which some of my friends are a fan of. Um, and I'm not a fan of Togen Anki, but there is quite a variety of anime that comes out. It's just I feel like a lot of people mistake the 2 different modes of enjoying shows that people have. So there are some people like me, and I will call myself a pretentious curmudgeon quite a bit because I like stories with some sort of meaning or theme to them, or something where I feel like I'm getting like some form of value out of it. I enjoy those sorts of stories more than anything else versus something like Solo Leveling, which really is just, your stereotypical power fantasy action shonen kind of thing. A lot of people who aren't as invested in this enjoy those kinds of shows. And in fact, the people who are the quote unquote normies are generally the vast majority of an audience because they see something that appeals to them and they'll watch it and they'll like it and then they'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and plus, with a lot of genres, while they may be in the same genre, let's be honest, a lot of these, well, at least the good ones, don't always tell the story the same. Like as you mentioned, the 3 battle shonens are Gachikai and Dandadan, but even then, both of them tell those stories and how they'll structure everything in vastly different ways. So I doubt, even if you watch them both back to back and they're both battle shonen, you're not gonna get the same experience because of storytelling and such. Yeah, it's kind of like how Bleach and Naruto are both bad and shonens of the same era, but regardless, they're still 2 vastly different vibes to them.
Mhm. So continuing on with the article, Nakame agreed, adding, I feel the same way. Japanese anime tends to be created freely, but within that freedom, biases may have formed. It would be more interesting if there were more variety. It's easy to get swept up in the big trends, and that's why it's necessary. And while that's necessary for the work itself, I want to consider various aspects. So yeah, in here, I don't know where people were getting the maybe there's something later on here. Maybe, but I don't know where people were getting they were slamming action shonens in this because I haven't seen anything here. Action shonens haven't really been the trend. If anything, isekai has been the trend, and like fantasies about dudes being kicked out of their parties has been the trend these past couple of seasons.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, I feel like a lot of that just real projection, I'll be honest, that it's probably just some people who probably like, those guys who just see shonen as bottom of the bill stuff were probably just like, yeah, that's the one we're after. Those kind of guys. Well, just a vendetta than them actually going off of what was said.
um, Crimson kicked me out of my party, so I started my own podcast with blackjack and hookers. Sorry, with blackjacks and hooker. So he has a bunch of black dudes named Jack over there playing and hookers apparently.
I mean, I'm not sure what you're. Okay, well, I mean, hey, that's your party. You can do what you want.
So the GAC will be held in collaboration with Japan's Agency of Cultural Affairs, its creators, Japan Arts Council, the Japan Research Institute with mentorship from Masaru Ueda, veteran planner. Okay. Anime production companies Mappa, Production IG, Trigger, and Bandai Namco Filmworks will cooperate. I can't close that. Fuck. I need an ad blocker. Here's another quote. So, numerous anime creators have voiced concern over trends within the medium as of recently. Amid the rise of isekai and RPG-styled inspired fantasy over the last decade, Ghost in the Shell, Arise director Kazuchika Kize criticized the trend in 2024, adding that he felt there were fewer grounded anime than before. I find it strange that all that gets made are isekai stories. There are even series about being reborn as a vending machine recently. Hey, reborn as a vending machine mentioned. That one really stunned me. I feel like there are fewer grounded anime works than there used to be. There are a lot of really, really weird ones out recently.
Yeah, but honestly, I
Uh,
feel like those are just as necessary as an important one as it's like, yes, they don't do much, but it still means that the medium is open for just about any kind of idea to exist. It's not
yeah,
okay, you only have one thing. It's like, no, no, you can experiment.
yeah, there does need to be some of that weirdness, like reborn as a vending machine in there, to always, push the envelope just a little bit further. They may not always be good, but at least they're creative. Many of these stories are adaptations of manga and light novels, pushed and often co-produced by the series publisher, with an emphasis on driving sales to the original works. Said that the anime industry was weakening, in part because there was too much of an emphasis on strictly faithful adaptations rather than giving freedom to creators to create. I feel like that can be a double-edged sword depending on how you interpret that. Um, if you're saying that they shouldn't be faithful to original works, I disagree. But if you're saying that if they should do more like original anime stuff, like, to give an example, something like Licorice Recoil, I would agree. Stepping away from having source material and allowing people to be creative and just make new properties altogether would be a good thing.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like people, there's some because of how manga is structured, that can easily dictate how a story is told and such. But the basis of it was always an anime. It can make things be a lot more, I guess you could say, creative or free to that medium. Because manga, it's like the manga is restricted only by how the mangaka structure things or what they can actually express through it. But in the anime, since it has more things they can do with it, since it can easily start out with color and such, there's a lot more creative ways you can do with it. Like painting and stalking, that area is going on. Yeah, that can be a manga, but it works a lot better with the anime, which is how they're able to switch art style so often and then do half the crazy dumb stuff they do. Because it's not restricted by what the original guy had to draw.
Mhm. Um, just to close this article out really quick. So we have 10 titles currently being published with the word villainess in all our bestsellers, but only 2 with the phrase level up. We think that the level up trend is coming to an end, probably because of the economic crisis in the end. Level up stories are an echo of the famous American dream, also valid until recently in Korea with incredible economic growth. And that comes from, I believe that was, yeah, Saito. Okay. So this is where I think the battle shonen criticism came in. So Saito's view about the dominant trends is also present in other media. Soul Leveling, which received one of the most popular anime adaptations of recent years, was published during the boom of RPG inspired titles with the focus on leveling up. Published in 2024, publisher D&C Media said that while the dominant trends are reflective of the time, they were difficult to follow since they evolve very quickly. Yeah. So basically, what I get out of this is putting all your eggs in one basket is a bad thing. Maybe just let people create the thing and then see if it's marketable and see if like everyone wants to watch it. And let studios sometimes make some original stuff because sometimes they actually come up with good things.
Yeah, yeah. Hell, like, isn't Gurren Lagann a anime original?
I'm not sure on that one. Um, because I've not watched Gurren Lagann. I don't know if it has a manga or not. That would be up for someone else to, inform me on that. But hey, apparently they're hiring Channing Tatum for Demon Slayer.
Wow. That's
Yeah, he's going to be in the English dub cast for Demon Slayer.
oh, see,
He's
yeah, I
going
think
to
I remember
voice
seeing
Keizo.
on Twitter. I was just like, really?
Oh
Okay
yeah,
then.
Zenshu was actually a really good anime original. That one's recent. Perhaps Gurren Lagann, but a lot of older anime were actually, anime original and didn't have, manga to back them up. That's a somewhat newer trend. I mentioned Licorice Recoil because I personally really liked that one. Um, that one was original to the anime. But I mean, it's since we're on the topic of, like popular overseas and everything, apparently we now have anime going to be shown on airplanes alongside movies and stuff. So you'll be able to select stuff from Crunchyroll. So Crunchyroll partners with Delta to offer anime as in-flight entertainment. You want to argue that it's not getting popular? I mean, it's gone corporate. That means that it has some level of popularity.
Yep. And it's one of those things where it's like, because at one point it's like, oh yeah, things are getting popular and such. But at other point you're like, oh geez, we're gonna have to deal with a lot of those folks who, you know what I mean.
You're going to run
Does
up against a lot of the people who are just there because it's popular.
yeah.
And
And they're gonna be the
Biggles seems to
most
not like
known
Delta.
people.
Okay.
Hey, at least they're not Boeing.
Boeing, that's the sound that they make when they hit the ground. So Crunchyroll announced on Monday that it will offer specially curated anime on Delta flights later this year as in-flight entertainment on seatback screens. The company did not specify which series will be available. It's probably going to be something like Demon Slayer, Solo Leveling, Jujutsu Kaisen. Very palatable, easy to watch sort of anime would be my guess.
I would hope so before before some poor grandma watches something like, I don't know, interspecies reviewers or something.
I don't think that's on Crunchyroll, but please put them on. Miss Takamine is. It's just like, what do we have to select? Demon Slayer, this show about this chick who can rewind time by taking off her panties. Okay. Nuki Tashi, what the heck is this? Oh, it's okay. Oh, anyway. Yeah, so the company did not specify which series will be available, but teased 2,000 titles and 50,000 episodes. So basically, it looks like they're putting almost their whole library up there.
Oh wow.
It will share more details in the future. That's really the only relevant part of this, because this just kind of goes into the history of Crunchyroll's ownership and everything there. But interesting. It's an interesting trend, to say the least. Want to touch on it a little bit. Like, it's nice to see that a lot of people really do enjoy anime, but at the same time, it's also brought with it its own like fair share of dilemmas, especially with everyone who was really, really, really up in arms over the epilogue chapter of My Hero Academia. That was one of the funnier controversies that I've seen.
Oh boy, you just gave me Vietnam flashbacks.
Yeah, you were over there in the trenches, weren't you?
Yeah.
uh, and there was also, well, it also, like, the popularity of anime is also what resulted in the Dandadan fan art controversy that came out when the first season dropped last year. And that was another wild one that I was actually in the trenches on, researching and keeping tabs on everything that was going on there. And everyone involved in that was kind of just a dumbass. Um, and Biggles is still upset because people don't like the ending of Kaiju number 8.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, out of my life,
I just have to bust his balls about it. And like more and more, you do see people complaining about rather mundane things when it comes to anime. Like, I don't know how you personally feel about like fan service or any of that inside anime, but it's never really bothered me. And I feel like a lot of people do complain about it just because it is the popular thing to complain about. But that does not really work as a segue for this final article that I will be covering here for the night, because this is really like the last thing, like last major thing I do want to go over tonight. And it's kind of along the same lines as like the the international success of anime and manga. And here we have, not all manga has to be Japanese. Major manga publisher Kadokawa looks for new manga artists overseas amidst labor shortage. Recently, Kadokawa announced the result of their Wordless World manga contest, featuring over 1,000 entries from over 100 different countries. The goal of the contest was to promote Japanese manga and discover up and coming manga artists from all over the globe. In recent interviews with Oricon News, members of Kadokawa's overseas manga editorial team shared their goals for worldwide expansion and emphasize the necessity. I'm struggling because my brain is broken, of broadening the talent pool of manga authors in Japan and overseas. Due to the popularization of digital comics in recent years, the number of supply points for manga has drastically increased compared to the past. However, there aren't enough manga artists to meet the demand of the market, and our teams have urgently taken to the task of scouting talented newcomers. And this is where I have to question, are they just talking about people to work as like artist assistants for like popular mangaka, or are they just looking for people to write series for their magazines just from all over the world?
Yeah, I am interested to see exactly what that means. I, in a sense, I kind of hope it's the first one, so it's still relatively, yeah, still relatively can keep like the manga feel the manga industry has.
It keeps its cultural identity pretty much.
Yeah, basically. So it's like, okay, yeah, other people can, go into for the art style, but it still keeps the identity to it. But I am, if they do go for the latter, I am interested to see how they implement it. Like, will it just be contests? Will they like make their own division?
I
Will it be
know,
open
I
to
do know that
foreigners?
Shonen Jump on their digital platforms like Manga Plus do allow people from all over the world to submit one shots. Um, there's a guy writing a series called Hyperborea, and he has posted a couple of his chapters there as one shots on Manga Plus that I've been able to read. But I believe he is also based out of Japan, even if he's not actually Japanese. So I don't know how all that works. But to continue on, it would be nice, for them to maintain their cultural identity, because that's the major reason why manga and anime have become so popular, is just the fact that the Japanese were telling stories that people actually enjoyed, and that all stemmed from their culture. Due to the popularization of digital comics in recent years, the number of supply points for manga has drastically increased compared to the past. However, there aren't enough manga artists to meet the demand of the market, and our editorial team have urgently taken to the task of Scott. Okay, I think I just read that. I might have just repeated myself. Either way. Noboru Segawa, Kadokawa's IP executive producer, heading multiple departments related to overseas publishing, stated that there is a particular shortage in the sphere of comic adaptations of light novels and books in the isekai genre. Despite the abundance of source material, there are overwhelmingly not enough manga. Okay, so it does look like they're not just looking for people to come and write new series. It looks like they're literally looking for bodies to throw at a labor problem based on that statement. However, just joining the competition to secure talent won't solve the fundamental issue of workforce shortage, as it doesn't contribute to expanding the talent pool. Devising ways to discover and nurture popular authors is a crucial mission for our manga editors. The wide sea of overseas manga artists. Okay. Sagawa notes that as Japan faces declining birth rates and aging population, it will become increasingly difficult to create works amid a aimed at younger audiences from a commercial perspective. However, he states that there is a potential for such works to succeed in areas with greater populations of young people, such as countries in Southeast Asia. And this is why he says the starting point for the work. Okay, so I'm getting conflicting answers here. Sometimes it just sounds like they want bodies to throw at their labor problem. And other times it seems like they actually want you to publish overseas artists. I'm really confused. Don't exactly know. I didn't realize you had.
Yeah, no problem. That just collapsed on itself for some reason.
Yeah, so I don't know whether, like, I'm getting conflicted answers here, because at one point he says, like, we want to hire people, like, to, help translate these light novels and web novels into manga and other formats. And so basically it sounds like they just want assistance. And then other times they say they also want to publish works from other places. So I'm really unsure as to what it kind of sounds like it's a both and sort of thing that they're going on about here.
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned before, I am interested to see how they will actually scout people if they want them to write stories for them. Like, will they just have I know like a decent amount of companies have like a program where people will go to their artist valleys and such, but would that be the extent of it, or would they be doing scouting stuff? Would it be do contests? I'm kind of curious to see what they'll actually do with it. Because with digital manga, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to do stuff with it.
I.e., we want more globalist money, so all of the above. Who knows, man? Everything sucks now. Why everything's just a mess. But I too am curious to see where they're going to go with it. I have read a couple of foreign published things that have come through the manga pipeline and all of that, and come through the Japanese publishing pipeline. And I don't think they're horrendous by any means. It's just there are certain ones that I have liked more. So with all of that said, we're gonna wrap it up here. So for, like I said, for anyone who's looking to get in on the Relentlessly Bullied Hero campaign, the link is pinned, I believe, still, and it's still in the description for the live stream if you are interested in that. I hope you all enjoyed, the news segment and everything. Hero DarkyDark, is there anything else you would like to plug while we are still alive?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, outside the Kickstarter, shout out to my YouTube, shout out to my Instagram, same name, Hero DarkyDark. Shout out to my Twitter and X, where I do the majority of my project status reports, or whatever you call it. And yeah, thanks for having me on. I do appreciate it.
No problem. Always like having you around to talk about this kind of stuff. Hopefully, I can get into contact with some other people and have some other projects on here as well on occasion, because there are some other manga style projects that I do want to be able to talk about. But one of them would actually require the guy to put out the book. And, well, yeah, we're in one of those situations. Either way, thank you so much for showing up, Hero DarkyDark. Thank you to the chat for participating. I appreciate all of you guys. As always, I'm going to continue doing my regular anime content. So probably Friday, there will be another video out, short one about some anime that I've been watching this season. You know what? Perhaps maybe I'll just do it on the most unhinged anime of the season, Nukitashi.
Is that the one about minus?
No, that would be I think that's Ruri Rocks. Nukitashi is the one that you can't show on YouTube because there's just that much sex in it.
Yep, now I remember it.
The main character was ashamed of his massive cock, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. I don't know whether I'm actually going to talk about that one or not. Saturday night, I always do my live stream, as anyone here probably knows. Animated. I talk about anime all Saturday night to recap the week and talk about what was good, what was bad, what I liked, what I didn't. That said, everyone should back Hero DarkyDark's project because I personally recommend it. I think it's pretty good. And I hope you all have a good night. So here is something that will probably, you know what? I don't think I actually want to go with that outro because it's probably going to get me in trouble. So we're going to go with a classic, my favorite magical girl of all time.
Please!